8 elite soldiers, 30 hostiles, 1 sniper they refused to trust. Commander Darius Hale made his choice before the mission even began. Reject the Overwatch. Too young, too unproven, too female. Sergeant Nix Calder never argued. She just watched from the shadows as Hale's team walked into the killing zone. Then the forest exploded. Gunfire, screams, blood in the rain, and suddenly the woman they dismissed became the only thing standing between survival and massacre. 15 enemies, 15 shots, 0 room for doubt. This is the story of how silence broke louder than thunder. Stay with me until the very end of this story. If you're captivated, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels across the world. The rain came down in sheets. Not the soft kind that whispers against leaves. The violent kind, cold, relentless, turning dirt into mud and visibility into guesswork. It hammered the canopy of Velkin Ridge, a stretch of wilderness so dense that sunlight never fully reached the forest floor. The kind of terrain where shadows had shadows. And somewhere in those shadows, death was waiting. Commander Darius Hale crouched low behind a moss-covered boulder, rifle pressed tight against his shoulder, eyes scanning the tree line ahead. 42 years old, 20 years in the field, a man built from scar tissue and certainty. He'd led Team Orion through hell more times than he could count. Mosul, Kandahar, places that didn't make it onto maps. He trusted his instincts, and his instincts told him they didn't need a babysitter. "Command Orion 1, he muttered into his radio, voice low and gravelly. "We're 2 clicks from the objective. No contact. Weather's trash, but we're moving," Static hissed back at him. Then a voice, calm, clipped, professional. "Copy Orion 1. Overwatch is in position on Ridge 7. Call sign, Phantom 2. Hale's jaw tightened. Phantom 2. He knew exactly who that was. Sergeant Nix Calder, 26 years old, precision marksman, top of her class at sniper school, flawless record on paper, and utterly unproven where it mattered, in the field, under fire, when lives hung on a single decision. "Orion 1, acknowledge," the voice pressed. Hale didn't answer immediately. His finger hovered over the transmit button. Behind him, his team waited. 7 operators, faces streaked with camouflage paint, breathing steady, weapons ready. Men he'd bled with, men who trusted him without question. He wasn't about to let some rookie with a perfect scorecard put them at risk. "Acknowledged," he finally said, voice flat. "Orion out." He released the button and turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, a wiry, sharp-eyed Texan with a perpetual smirk that vanished the moment things got serious. "Problem, boss?" Reed asked quietly. Hale shook his head. "We're going radio silent with Overwatch unless it's critical." Reed's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Command assigned her for a reason." "Command assigns a lot of things," Hale muttered. "Doesn't mean I have to like it." Reed didn't push. He knew better. Instead, he gave a small nod and turned back to the team, signaling with his hand. "Move out." They moved like ghosts, silent, disciplined, each man knowing his sector, his spacing, his role. Years of training distilled into muscle memory. No wasted movement, no unnecessary sound. The rain helped. It covered the crunch of boots on wet leaves, the shift of gear, the faint metallic clink of a magazine being checked. But it also masked everything else. Ambient noise, enemy movement, the subtle warnings nature usually provided. Hale hated it. He hated operations where the environment worked against you as much as the enemy. And he hated being second-guessed by brass who thought diversity metrics mattered more than mission success. He'd said as much in the briefing room 2 days ago. Flashback. 48 hours earlier. The operations center had been sterile. White walls, fluorescent lights, a long table cluttered with maps and tablets. Hale stood at one end, arms crossed, staring at the mission brief projected on the screen. Operation Nightfall. Objective: high-value target extraction. Dr. Emil Corvin, weapons engineer defecting from hostile forces. Location: Velkin Ridge, Sector 9. Support: air assets on standby. Overwatch assigned. Major Calloway, the operations officer, had been the one to drop the bomb. Your Overwatch will be Sergeant Nix Calder. She's been cleared for field deployment. Hale's response had been immediate. No. Calloway blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Hale leaned forward, planting both hands on the table. This is a high-risk extraction in hostile territory. I need someone with combat experience, not a range queen. Sergeant Calder graduated top of her class. Her scores, I don't care about her scores. Hale's voice was steel. Scores don't mean a damn thing when rounds are flying and people are dying. She's never been under fire. Never had to make a call when there's no second chance. I'm not putting my team's lives in the hands of someone who's never pulled a trigger outside a controlled environment. Calloway's expression hardened. Commander, this isn't a request. It's an assignment. Sergeant Calder has been cleared by Psych, by medical, by range command. She's qualified. She's untested. Everyone's untested until they're tested. Hale straightened. Then test her on someone else's mission. The room had gone silent. Reed, sitting to Hale's right, had shifted uncomfortably. The other officers exchanged glances. Calloway stood slowly. Commander Hale, I respect your experience, but this decision isn't yours to make. Sergeant Calder is your overwatch. You will integrate her into the operation. Are we clear? Hale's jaw worked. He wanted to argue, wanted to dig in. But orders were orders. Crystal, he said coldly. Good. Dismissed. Hale had walked out without another word. Present, Velcon Ridge. The memory still burned in his gut as Team Orion pushed deeper into the forest. The rain hadn't let up. If anything, it had gotten worse. A constant, oppressive drumming that turned the world into shades of gray. Hale checked his GPS. They were close. Another kilometer and they'd reached the extraction point, a small clearing where Dr. Corvin was supposed to be waiting. Orion 3, hold at checkpoint Alpha, Hale whispered into his radio. Copy, came the reply. Corporal Vega, the team's combat medic. Young, quick, reliable. The team fanned out, taking positions around the checkpoint. Hale scanned the area through his rifle optic. Trees, shadows, rain, nothing. But something felt wrong. It was too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from heavy rain muffling sound. This was different, deeper, like the forest itself was holding its breath. No birds, no insects, no movement. Hale's instincts screamed. Orion 1, this is Phantom 2. The voice crackled through his earpiece, soft, precise, almost unnervingly calm. Nix. Hale grimaced. Go ahead. I'm reading anomalous heat signatures northwest of your position. Approximately 200 meters, multiple contacts. Advise you halt advance and reassess. Hale's eyes narrowed. He glanced northwest, saw nothing but trees and rain. How many contacts? He asked, keeping his voice neutral. Thermal imaging shows at least 15, possibly more. They're stationary, concealed positions. Hale's mind raced. Thermal could be glitchy in weather like this. Rain, temperature shifts, dense foliage, all of it played hell with imaging equipment. Could be animals, he said. A pause, then, negative. Spacing and formation are consistent with tactical deployment. They're waiting. Reed caught Hale's eye, mouthing silently, Your call. Hale weighed it. On one hand, Calder's intel could be legitimate. On the other, stopping the advance based on unconfirmed thermal imaging from an untested operator felt like handing over control. Phantom 2, stand by, Hale said. He switched to the team channel. Orion, hold position, eyes sharp. Then he pulled out his own thermal scanner, lifted it, scanned the northwest quadrant. At first, nothing. Then, faint heat blooms scattered through the trees, man-sized. His pulse quickened. Orion 6, do you have visual northwest? He whispered. Negative, boss. Too much cover. Hale lowered the scanner. His gut twisted. Could be nothing, could be everything. And in that moment of hesitation, the decision was made for him. Mkuat, Ridge 7, Nix's position. Nix, Calder lay prone on the ridge, rain streaming down her ghillie suit, turning her into part of the landscape. Her rifle, a custom-built .308 with suppressor and advanced optics, rested steady on its bipod. Her breathing was slow, controlled. Her heartbeat a metronome. She'd been watching Orion's approach for the past 20 minutes. And she'd been watching the trap form around them for the past 10. Through her scope, the world was rendered in shades of green and black, thermal overlay painting warm bodies against cold earth. She counted them methodically. 15. No. 18. No. 23. And more moving into position. They were setting up a kill box. Classic L-shaped ambush, the kind that left no survivors. Orion 1, this is Phantom 2, she said again, voice calm despite the adrenaline beginning to trickle into her bloodstream. Advise immediate halt. You're about to walk into a prepared ambush. Multiple hostiles, concealed positions, coordinated placement. This isn't random. They're waiting for you. Static. Then Hale's voice, tight with skepticism. Phantom 2. Confirm visual contact. Negative visual, thermal and infrared only, but the pattern is clear. You need to pull back now. Another pause. Nix's jaw tightened. She could hear it in his voice. The doubt. The resistance. He didn't trust her, and because of that, 8 men were about to die. Phantom 2, we're assessing. Stand by. Commander, there's no time to... And then the world exploded. The ambush. The first blast was an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade that shrieked out of the trees and slammed into the boulder Reed had been crouched behind. The explosion was deafening, a wall of fire and shrapnel that turned stone into shrapnel and air into concussion. Reed flew backward, hitting the ground hard, ears ringing. Then the gunfire started. Automatic weapons, AK-47s, PKMs, maybe a Dragunov mixed in, opened up from 3 sides. Muzzle flashes strobed through the rain. Rounds tore through foliage, shredded bark, kicked up geysers of mud. Team Orion dove for cover. Contact! Contact! Northwest, west, and southwest, someone screamed over the radio. Hale hit the dirt behind a fallen log, rounds snapping overhead like angry hornets. His mind shifted instantly from doubt to survival. Orion, return fire. Sectors assigned. Vega, check Reed. The team responded like the professionals they were. Discipline overriding panic, training overriding chaos. They returned fire in controlled bursts, each man covering his sector, suppressing the ambushers. But they were outnumbered, outgunned, and pinned. Orion 1, this is Phantom 2. Nix's voice cut through the chaos, steady, unshaken. I have eyes on your position, counting 30 hostiles. You're in a kill box. Air support is 45 minutes out. You don't have 45 minutes. Hale pressed himself against the log as rounds chewed into the wood above his head. His mind raced. No air support. No backup. Surrounded. Phantom 2, he started. I'm engaging. Negative. Do not engage. That's an order. A pause. Rain, gunfire, screams. Then her voice again, soft and final. You'll be dead in 3 minutes if I don't. And then she went silent. The ghost, Nix, shifted her rifle smoothly, compensating for wind, distance, and rain. Her scope settled on the first target, a man with an RPG launcher, reloading behind a tree 400 meters downrange. She did the math in her head. Wind, 7 miles per hour, easterly. Distance, 412 meters. Target elevation, 15 feet below her position. Projectile drop, 18 inches. She adjusted. Exhaled halfway, let her heart settle, and squeezed. The rifle whispered, a soft crack swallowed almost instantly by rain and distance. The suppressor hid the muzzle flash. The sound was barely a pop. 400 meters away, the RPG gunner collapsed, a neat hole through his temple. No one noticed. Not yet. Nix cycled the bolt smoothly, brass ejected, new round chambered. Next target. A squad leader, barking orders into a radio. She could see his mouth moving even through the scope. Arrogant, confident. She ended him mid-sentence. He dropped. And that they noticed. Sniper! We have a sniper! Panic rippled through the ambushers. Heads turned. Weapons swept the ridge. But they couldn't see her, couldn't hear her, couldn't pinpoint her. Nix was already moving. She low-crawled 15 meters to a new position, settling behind a different boulder, scope up, scanning for the next threat. A machine gunner, PKM, pouring fire into Orion's position. She put a round through his chest. Another man tried to take the gun. She dropped him before his hands even touched the grips. 3 down. 4. 5. And the forest turned. The hunters became the hunted. Boom. Orion's perspective. "Did you see that?" Reed shouted over the gunfire, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. "Guy just dropped!" Hale saw it too, hostiles falling with no visible source. No sound. Just gone. "It's Phantom 2, Vega yelled, pressing a bandage against a shrapnel wound on another operator's leg. "She's engaging." Hale didn't respond. He was too busy trying to process what was happening. Enemies were dropping like dominoes, clean, surgical, precise. Every time a hostile rose to fire, they collapsed. Every time a new threat emerged, it disappeared. No wasted shots, no hesitation, just elimination. "Orion 1, move west on my mark." Nix's voice came through, still calm, still controlled. "I'll cover your displacement. Go in 3, 2, 1, move." Hale didn't think. He reacted. "Orion, displace west, bounding overwatch, move!" The team moved, half suppressing, half sprinting, leapfrogging through the trees in textbook tactical displacement. And every time a hostile tried to cut them off, Nix erased them. A man rose from behind a rock, AK raised, gone. 2 fighters tried to flank from the left. Both dropped within a second of each other. An officer screamed orders, trying to rally his men. Nix silenced him permanently. "Jesus Christ," Reed breathed, stumbling behind cover. "She's not missing, not once." Hale said nothing, because he was watching something he'd never seen before. Pure, unrelenting precision. Orion. 7 minutes later, the gunfire stopped. Not gradually, not with a fade-out. It just stopped. The ambushers broke. The ones still alive abandoned their positions, fleeing into the forest. Discipline shattered, fear overriding training. Team Orion held their positions, weapons up, scanning for threats. Nothing. Just rain. Just wind. Just the faint rustle of leaves. "Orion 1, area is clear," Nix reported. 15 hostile KIA. Remainder retreated north. Your 6 is secure. Hale stood slowly, legs shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline crash. He looked around at his team, all alive, wounded, but alive. Reed met his eyes, didn't say a word, didn't have to. "Phantom 2, Hale started, voice hoarse. Extraction inbound," Nix interrupted. "ETA 12 minutes. Suggest you move to LZ Bravo. I'll maintain overwatch until you're clear." Professional, detached, no emotion. Hale swallowed hard. "Copy." Orion moving to LZ Bravo. He switched to team channel. "Pack it up, we're moving." As the team gathered their gear, Vega approached Hale. Exhaustion etched across his face. "Boss?" he said quietly. "She just saved all of us." Hale nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "She did." But, Ridge 7, Nix's position. Nix watched through her scope as Team Orion moved toward the extraction point. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger guard, ready, alert. 15 targets down. 15 shots fired. Her rifle was still warm. She exhaled slowly, letting the adrenaline bleed out of her system. Her hands were steady. Her pulse was normal. Just another day at the office. Except it wasn't. She'd heard the doubt in Hale's voice, felt the resistance in his hesitation, and she'd proven him wrong the only way that mattered. Not with words, not with arguments, but with results. Far below, the sound of rotors grew louder. The extraction helo was coming in. A Blackhawk, lights cutting through the rain. "Orion 1, bird is on approach," she reported. "Copy, Phantom 2. A pause. Then, "And thank you." Nix didn't respond, just watched as the team loaded onto the helicopter one by one, disappearing into the belly of the aircraft. The last one aboard was Hale. He turned, looking up toward the ridge, toward her position, even though he couldn't possibly see her. And then he was gone. The Blackhawk lifted off, rotors screaming, banking hard into the storm. Nix remained still, watching, waiting, making sure they were safe. And then, silently, she began to pack her gear. No fanfare, no applause. Just the rain, the wind, and the knowledge that she'd done her job. Perfectly. 3 hours later, base camp. The debriefing room was cold. Hale sat at the table, uniform still damp, face still streaked with dirt. Across from him sat Major Calloway and 2 intelligence officers, laptops open, recording devices running. "Walk me through it again," Calloway said. Hale did, start to finish. The approach, the ambush, the chaos. And Nix. 15 confirmed kills, one of the intelligence officers said, reading from a tablet. Satellite imaging corroborates. No collateral damage, no friendly fire, textbook Overwatch. Calloway leaned back in his chair, studying Hale. "You recommended against her deployment." Hale met his eyes. "I did." "And now?" Hale was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I was wrong." The room went still. "She saved my team," Hale continued, voice low but firm. "Saw the trap before we did, engaged when I told her not to, made every shot count. If she hadn't been there—" He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Calloway nodded slowly. "Sergeant Calder will be commended, and you'll be writing the recommendation." Hale almost smiled. "Already planning to, sir." Nix's quarters. Later that night. Nix sat on the edge of her bunk, cleaning her rifle with methodical precision. Strip, wipe, oil, reassemble. The rhythm was soothing. A knock at the door. "Yeah," she called. The door opened. Lieutenant Reed stepped in, looking tired but alive. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure." Reed leaned against the door frame. "Team wants to buy you a drink. Well, several drinks, possibly all the drinks." Nix glanced up. "Not necessary." "Maybe not, but it'd mean a lot to them." She considered, then nodded. "Okay." Reed grinned. "Good. Also, Hale wants to see you. Tomorrow. Oh, 800. Nix's expression didn't change. "Copy." Reed hesitated. Then, "For what it's worth, you're a damn legend now. Everyone's talking about it. 15-0. Nix returned to her rifle. "I was just doing my job." "Yeah," Reed said softly. "But you did it better than anyone thought possible." He left. The door clicked shut. Nix sat alone in the quiet, the smell of gun oil sharp in the air. She didn't feel like a legend. She felt like someone who'd finally been given the chance to prove what she'd always known. That doubt was just noise, and performance was the only language that mattered. Outside, rain continued to fall, but somewhere in the darkness, Commander Darius Hale sat in his quarters, staring at the mission report on his screen. And for the first time in 20 years, he questioned every assumption he'd ever made about who belonged in the fight. Because the person who saved them wasn't the one he expected. She was the one he'd tried to leave behind. The knock came at 07:55. Nix was already awake. Had been since 0500. Old habits, sniper school drilled routines so deep they became reflex. Wake before dawn. Run diagnostics on your body. Check your gear. Be ready. Always be ready. She stood from the bunk, boots laced, uniform crisp despite the previous night's chaos still replaying in muscle memory. Her reflection in the small mirror above the sink showed nothing. No pride, no satisfaction, no emotion. Just the same face that had stared back at her through a scope yesterday while men died in her crosshairs. The knock came again. Harder this time. "Enter," she said. The door swung open. Commander Darius Hale filled the frame, bigger than she remembered, older too, lines carved deep around his eyes from years of squinting through iron sights and making impossible calls. He looked like he hadn't slept. Dark circles, jaw tight, the kind of exhaustion that came from replaying your mistakes until dawn. "Sergeant Calder," he said, voice rough as gravel. "Sir." She stood at attention, not because protocol demanded it, because the silence between them needed structure. Hale stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind him. For a moment he just stood there, taking in the room, Spartan, organized, nothing personal except a single photo tacked to the wall. A younger Nix, maybe 16, standing beside an older man in military fatigues, both holding rifles, both smiling. Hale's eyes lingered on it, then moved to her. "At ease," he said. She didn't move. "Is that an order or a suggestion, sir?" Something flickered across his face. Not anger, something worse. Recognition that she wasn't going to make this easy for him. "It's an apology," he said quietly. That got her attention. Her posture shifted. Not much, just enough. I was wrong about you, Hale continued, each word deliberate. I let my assumptions dictate my judgment. I questioned your capability before you even set foot in the field. That's on me. And because of that, I nearly got my team killed. Nix watched him, measured him, looked for the angle, the ulterior motive. She'd heard apologies before, usually from instructors who'd bet against her, officers who'd recommended desk duty, men who thought precision came with a prerequisite between the legs. But Hale's eyes didn't waver, didn't deflect. He meant it. Permission to speak freely, sir? She asked. Granted. You're not wrong for doubting me. Her voice was calm, clinical. I was unproven. No combat experience, just range scores and simulations. You had every right to question whether I'd freeze under fire. But you didn't freeze. No, sir, I didn't. Why? The question hung there. Simple. Devastating. Nix's jaw tightened. Because the answer wasn't simple. It was buried under years of being told she didn't belong, under the weight of every sideways glance in the mess hall, every whispered comment in the locker room, every evaluation that praised her skill while questioning her resolve. Because freezing wasn't an option, she said finally. Your team was dying, so I did my job. Hale nodded slowly. 15 targets, 15 shots. 16, actually. 1 ricochet. Had to correct? His eyebrows lifted. The after-action report said 15. The after-action report rounded down. A ghost of a smile touched Hale's face, then vanished. Command wants to see you. 0900. Full debrief. I already gave my report. This isn't about the report. Hale's expression shifted, became unreadable. They're going to offer you something. What kind of something? The kind that changes careers. Nix studied him. You don't sound happy about it. I'm not sure happy is the right word. Hale moved to the window, looking out at the compound. Rows of barracks, training grounds, the distant firing range where recruits were already running drills. You saved my team. I'm grateful. But what you did yesterday, people are talking. Command's talking. By tomorrow, everyone in the battalion will know your name. That's a problem? It's pressure. He turned back to her. You're about to become the poster child for integration, the proof that the system works. Every decision you make, every mission you're on, it'll be scrutinized, celebrated or weaponized depending on the outcome. Nix's expression didn't change. So what are you saying? Turn it down? I'm saying be ready. Hale's voice dropped. Because the people who want you to succeed will put you on a pedestal, and the people who want you to fail will do everything to knock you off it. Either way, you're not going to get the luxury of being just another operator anymore. I was never just another operator. The words landed like a round downrange, clean, final. Hale held her gaze, then nodded. No, I guess you weren't. He moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the handle. For what it's worth, he said without turning, I'm putting in a request. I want you assigned to Orion. Permanent overwatch. Nix blinked. That was the last thing she'd expected. Why? Hale looked back at her. Because I trust you. And then he was gone. The briefing room at 0900 was packed, not with soldiers, with brass. Major Calloway sat at the head of the table. Beside him, Colonel Mathis, base commander, career infantry, face like weathered leather. 2 intelligence officers Nix didn't recognize, a JAG lawyer, and someone in civilian clothes with a Pentagon YD clipped to his jacket. Nix walked in, and every eye tracked her. She stood at attention. Sergeant Nix called her, reporting as ordered. At ease, Sergeant, Calloway gestured to a chair. Have a seat. She sat, kept her spine straight, hands folded in her lap. Calloway slid a folder across the table. Your after-action report from yesterday's operation. Impressive doesn't begin to cover it. Nix didn't reach for the folder. Just doing my job, sir. 15 confirmed kills in under 8 minutes, Colonel Mathis said, voice like a cement mixer. 0 collateral damage, 0 friendly fire. In conditions most snipers would call impossible. He leaned forward. How? Training, sir, preparation, and a little bit of luck. Luck? The civilian spoke up. His voice was smooth, political. Sergeant, I've reviewed the satellite feeds, the thermal imaging, the ballistic analysis. What you did wasn't luck. It was something else entirely. Nix met his eyes. And you are? Gareth Stone, Defense Oversight Committee. He didn't offer a hand, just that bureaucratic smile that made her skin crawl. I'm here to determine if your performance represents an anomaly or a replicable standard. Meaning, Sergeant, that if you can teach what you did, if we can replicate that level of precision across the sniper course, you've just changed modern warfare. The room went quiet. Nix understood immediately. She wasn't being congratulated. She was being evaluated, studied, like a weapons system to be tested, refined, mass-produced. I can't teach instinct, she said carefully. No, Stone agreed, but you can teach methodology, technique, decision-making frameworks. He opened his own folder. I'm recommending you for Advanced Instructor Certification, fast-tracked promotion to Staff Sergeant, assignment to the Marksmanship Training Unit at Quantico. Nix's stomach dropped. Quantico. The instructor pipeline. It meant no more field work, no more operations. She'd spend her days on a range teaching theory to recruits who'd never hear a shot fired in anger, a cage wrapped in commendation. With respect, sir, she said slowly, I'm a field operator, not an instructor. You're whatever the military needs you to be, Colonel Mathis cut in. And right now, we need proof that yesterday wasn't a fluke. We need you visible, demonstrable. The face of precision lethality. The face? Nix's voice sharpened. Or the poster? Calloway cleared his throat. Sergeant, no, sir. Let's call it what it is. She looked around the table. You want me behind a desk because it's safer. Not for me. For the narrative. Female sniper gets one perfect mission, gets promoted, gets paraded around as proof the system works. But if I go back into the field and something goes wrong, if I miss a shot, if someone dies because I wasn't good enough, then suddenly I'm proof the opposite is true. Stone's smile didn't waver. You have a very cynical view of command structure, Sergeant. I have a realistic one. Then let me be realistic with you. Stone closed his folder. What you did yesterday will be studied for decades. Doctrine will change because of you. Training protocols will adapt. But that only happens if you're alive to teach it. Put you back in the field, and eventually the odds catch up. Statistics don't care about skill. Neither do the people who need covering fire. Idealistic, Mathis grunted, but stupid. Nix's hands tightened in her lap, but her voice stayed level. Sir, if I may, Commander Hale requested me for permanent assignment to Team Orion. That's field work. That's putting yesterday's performance into practice, not theory. Calloway and Mathis exchanged glances. Hale's request is under review, Calloway said carefully. But it's not the only option on the table. It's the only option I want. Stone laughed, actually laughed. Sergeant, you don't get to dictate your career path based on preference. You're military. You follow orders. And if I refuse the instructor position? The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mathis leaned back in his chair. Then you go where you're assigned, which might be inventory duty, or logistics, or any other role where your unique skill set is utterly wasted. His eyes narrowed. Don't mistake a commendation for leverage, Sergeant. You had one good day. That doesn't make you indispensable. Nix felt the trap closing. Play along, become a figurehead. Refuse, get buried in bureaucracy. Either way, they won. I'd like to think about it, she said. You have 24 hours, Stone replied. After that, command makes the decision for you. Dismissed, Calloway said. Nix stood, saluted, walked out. Behind her, she heard Stone's voice, low but audible. She'll take the instructor position. They always do. The door closed. Nix stood in the hallway, pulse hammering, fists clenched, and for the first time since Velkin Ridge, she felt trapped. The firing range was empty at 1400. Most of the base was running drills or on downtime. But Nix needed to think. And thinking for her meant shooting. She set up at the 1,000-meter line, loaded her rifle, 5 rounds, standard load, breathe, aim, fire. The first round punched through the center of the target down range. Perfect. She cycled the bolt, Load it again. Breathe, aim, fire. Another center hit. Again, again. 5 shots, 5 hits, grouping so tight you could cover it with a quarter. But it didn't help, because this wasn't about marksmanship. This was about control, and for the first time in her life, Nyx didn't have any. Thought I'd find you here. She turned. Lieutenant Reed approached, hands in his pockets, that perpetual smirk firmly in place. Come to gloat? She asked. Come to buy you a beer. He sat on the bench beside her shooting mat. Heard the briefing didn't go well. News travels fast. Always does. Reed watched her reload. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Bullshit, you always know. Nyx paused, then set the rifle down. They want me to teach, Quantico. Instructor pipeline. Reed whistled. That's actually a big deal. Most snipers would kill for that posting. I'm not most snipers. No, you're not. Reed leaned back, looking up at the sky. So turn it down. And get buried in logistics for the next 10 years? No thanks. Then take it. And spend the rest of my career as a showpiece, a token, proof that the system works while I'm stuck on a range teaching theory? Reed turned to her. You think that's what Hale did? Nyx frowned. What? Hale. 20 years ago, he was you, young hotshot, record-breaking operator. Command wanted to promote him, stick him behind a desk, make him a staff officer. He refused, took every shit assignment they threw at him for 3 years, survived on stubbornness and spite. Reed smiled. Now he runs one of the best teams in the battalion, because he didn't let them define him. That's different. How? Because he's... She stopped. Reed raised an eyebrow. A man? Nyx looked away. Listen, Reed said, voice softer. I'm not going to pretend you don't have it harder. You do. That's the reality. But you just proved something yesterday that nobody can argue with. You're not good for a woman. You're not good despite being a woman. You're just good, period. And that scares the hell out of people like Stone because it breaks their comfortable little narratives. So what's your advice? Reed stood. My advice? Stop asking permission. You want Orion? Take it. Make them tell you no. Make them put it in writing. Make them explain why the operator who just saved 8 lives isn't qualified to do it again. He started walking away, then paused. Also, we're still buying you that beer. 1,900. Don't be late. He left. Nyx sat alone on the range, rifle across her lap, mind churning. Then she picked up her radio. Orion 1, this is Phantom 2. You copy? Static. Then Hale's voice. Go ahead. Your offer. The permanent assignment. Does it still stand? A pause. It does. Then I accept. Another pause, longer this time. Copy that, Phantom 2. I'll inform command. They're not going to like it. Probably not. She could hear the smile in his voice. But that's my problem, not yours. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. You're about to find out what it's like being on a team that actually expects you to keep saving their asses. The radio clicked off. Nyx looked down at her rifle, traced the engraving on the stock, her initials, carved by hand during sniper school. A reminder that this weapon was hers. Earned, not given. She stood, packed her gear, and walked off the range with something she hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Orion. The bar was loud at 1900. Not the kind of loud that comes from celebration. The kind that comes from soldiers blowing off steam after too many days of tension. Music thumped from cheap speakers. Pool balls clacked. Someone was losing badly at darts. Nyx walked in, and the noise shifted. Not silence, but awareness. Heads turned. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Then Reed stood from a corner booth, raising a beer. There she is, Phantom 2 in the flesh. The tension broke, cheers erupted. Someone started clapping. Nyx felt her face heat. She wasn't used to this, didn't want this, but she walked over anyway. The booth was packed. Reed, Vega, 3 other Orion operators she recognized from yesterday. They made room, sliding over, shoving drinks toward her. To Phantom 2, Reed announced, raising his bottle. The only operator who can make an entire ambush disappear without leaving her hide. 15 and 0, Vega added. 16 and oh, Nix corrected. They drank, laughed, and for the first time, Nix felt something crack inside her. Not break, just loosen. Seriously, though, one of the operators, Corporal Hayes, demolitions expert, said, leaning forward. How did you see them? Hale said we walked right past their position. Nix sipped her beer. You weren't looking for absence. What? Most people scan for threats, movement, shapes. But sometimes the threat is what's not there. She set the bottle down. No birds, no insects. The forest was too quiet. That's what tipped me off. Hayes blinked. You noticed the forest was quiet? I notice everything. Reed snorted. She's not kidding. I watched her shoot a guy through a tree gap I couldn't even see with my naked eye. 412 meters, Nix said. Wind correction, elevation drop, humidity factor. It's just math. Just math, Vega repeated, shaking his head. She says it's just math. Conversation flowed. Stories traded. Exaggerations corrected. And slowly Nix began to relax. Not fully. Never fully. But enough to smile when Hayes told a terrible joke. Enough to nod when Reed recounted the moment he realized they were being covered by an invisible guardian angel with a god-tier trigger finger. Then the door opened, and Commander Hale walked in. The booth went quiet. Hale scanned the bar, found them, walked over. Room for one more? He asked. Reed slid over immediately. Always, boss. Hale sat. Someone handed him a beer. He took a long drink, then looked at Nix. I talked to Mathis, he said. Your assignment to Orion is official. You report Monday. Nix felt something settle in her chest. Relief. Validation. Maybe both. Copy that, sir. Also, Hale continued, Stone filed a formal complaint. Says you're being insubordinate, refusing a strategic career opportunity. The table tensed. And? Nix asked. And I told him to file it in triplicate and shove it somewhere anatomically uncomfortable. Hale smiled. Actual smile. You're a field operator. You belong in the field. End of discussion. Reed raised his beer. To Hale. The only commander crazy enough to tell the Pentagon to go screw itself. I'll drink to that, Hayes said. They did. And as the night wore on, the noise returned, the laughter, the stories. But Nix noticed something else. The way the team looked at her now. Not with skepticism, not with doubt, with respect. She'd earned it, one shot at a time. 2 hours later, the crowd had thinned. Most of the team had called it a night. Only Reed and Hale remained, nursing beers in comfortable silence. Nix stood to leave. Hold up, Hale said. Walk with me. They stepped outside into the cool night air. The base was quiet now. Just the distant hum of generators and the occasional bark of a guard dog. They walked toward the perimeter fence, boots crunching on gravel. You handled yourself well today, Hale said. In the briefing, most operators would have caved to pressure from someone like Stone. I don't cave easy. I noticed. Hale stopped, looking out at the dark expanse beyond the fence. Can I ask you something? Yes, sir. Why did you join? The question caught her off guard. Why does anyone join? That's not an answer. Nix was quiet for a moment, then, my father. Hale glanced at her, waited. He was a sniper, she continued, voice softer now. Marine Corps, 2 tours in Iraq. He taught me to shoot when I was 8, said precision was the only thing in life you could truly control. She smiled faintly. He died when I was 17, training accident, faulty equipment during a high-altitude exercise. I'm sorry. Don't be. He lived the way he wanted, died doing what he loved. Nix looked up at the stars. I joined because I wanted to honor that, prove that his lessons meant something, that I could be as good as he was. Better, maybe. Hale nodded slowly. And now? Now I just want to do the job, without having to justify my existence every damn day. Fair enough. Hale turned to face her fully. Listen, Orion's not going to be easy. The missions we run, they're high risk, high stakes. There's no margin for error. And yes, people will be watching you closer than they watch anyone else. That's the reality. I can handle it. I know you can, but I need you to understand something. His voice dropped. became deadly serious. When we're in the field, I don't see gender. I don't see politics. I see operators, and I expect perfection from all of them. You included. Yesterday was extraordinary, but extraordinary needs to become your baseline. Can you do that? Nix held his gaze. Yes, sir. Good. Hale extended his hand. Welcome to Team Orion. She shook it, firm, equal. And in that moment, something shifted. She wasn't the outsider anymore. She was part of the team. The next morning, Nix woke before dawn. Same routine, same discipline. But when she looked in the mirror, something was different. Not her face, not her uniform. Her eyes. They carried a weight now. The weight of expectation, of responsibility, of knowing that every shot she took from here on out would be measured against yesterday's impossible standard. But she didn't flinch from it. She leaned in. Because doubt had taught her something that confidence never could, that the only way to silence critics was to make noise they couldn't ignore. And she was just getting started. Outside, the sun broke over the horizon. A new day, a new mission. And somewhere in the shadows, Nix called her prepared to prove that yesterday wasn't luck. It was just the beginning. Monday came with gunfire, not the distant pop of range qualifications or the controlled bursts of training exercises. Real gunfire. Close. Urgent. The kind that turned blood cold and sent adrenaline spiking through every nerve. Nix was halfway through morning PT when the alarm split the air, 3 sharp blasts followed by the base-wide alert system crackling to life. All personnel, this is not a drill. Hostile breach at Gate 4. All combat teams to Rally Point Alpha. I repeat, this is not a drill. She was running before the announcement finished, boots pounding concrete, heart rate climbing, mind shifting into combat mode with the mechanical precision of a rifle bolt sliding home. The barracks emptied like kicked anthills. Soldiers poured out in various states of readiness, some fully geared, others pulling on vests as they ran. Nix hit the armory at a dead sprint, grabbing her rifle from the lockup, checking the chamber with muscle memory, slinging her go-bag over her shoulder. 30 seconds. Fully equipped. Outside, chaos organized itself into familiar patterns. Fire teams assembling, officers barking coordinates, the distant rattle of automatic weapons punctuated by something heavier. Explosions that shook the ground. She found Team Orion at Rally Point Alpha. Hale was already there, radio pressed to his ear, face carved from stone. Confirmed 12 hostiles, possibly more. They breached the east perimeter with explosives. Current location unknown. Air support is grounded due to mechanical issues. We're on our own. Reed caught sight of Nix. About time, Phantom. Thought you'd missed the party. What's the situation? She asked, sliding into position. Someone just kicked our front door in, Hale said, lowering the radio. Professional? Coordinated. They hit during shift change when perimeter security was thinnest. His eyes swept the team. This isn't random. They knew exactly when and where to strike. Objective? Nix asked. Unknown, but they're moving toward the command center. Hale's jaw tightened, which means they're either here for intel or they're here to send a message. Vega checked his med kit. So what's the play? We intercept before they reach command. Hale pointed to the map projected on a nearby tablet. There are 3 routes from Gate 4 to the command center. We split into elements, cut them off, eliminate the threat. Split the team? Hayes frowned. Boss, we don't know their numbers. Could be more than 12. Could be, Hale agreed, but we don't have time to debate. Every second we wait, they get closer to classified intel that could compromise operations across 3 continents. He looked at each of them in turn. Orion 2 and 3, take the northern route. 4 and 5, southern. 6 and 7, you're with me on the central approach. What about Phantom? Reed asked. Hale turned to Nix. You're our eyes. Get to the observation tower. Give us overwatch and intel. Anything moves that isn't ours, you call it. Nix nodded. Copy. And Phantom? Hale's voice dropped. If you get a shot, take it. She met his eyes, understood the weight behind those words. Moving, she said. She broke away from the group, sprinting toward the observation tower, a 3-story structure on the western edge of the compound that provided line of sight to most of the base. Her boots rang against metal stairs as she climbed, rifle bouncing against her back. She reached the top in under a minute, dropped into position, swept her scope across the compound, and saw them. Not 12 hostiles, 23. They moved like professionals, staggered formation, covering sectors, advancing with purpose. Black tactical gear, no insignia. Weapons that weren't standard issue for any military she recognized. Mercenaries. Her radio crackled. Phantom 2, Orion 1, what do you see? 23 hostiles confirmed, she reported, tracking their movement. Armed with AKs, at least 2 RPGs, possible explosives. They're moving in 2 elements. Primary force of 15 heading toward command. Secondary element of 8 flanking east. Flanking? Hale's voice sharpened. Where? Nix adjusted her scope. Followed the secondary element's trajectory. Her blood went cold. They're heading for the armory, she said. If they reach it, they'll have access to enough firepower to hold this base hostage for days. Hale cursed. Orion 2, redirect to armory. Stop that secondary element. Copy. Moving. Phantom, can you slow them down? Nix did the math. Distance, 600 meters. Wind, moderate crosswind. Targets, moving, alert, armored. Affirmative. Engaging secondary element. She settled into her shooting position. Controlled her breathing. Let the world narrow to numbers and angles. First target. The point man. 20 meters ahead of the others. RPG slung across his back. She made the calculations. Adjusted for wind, exhaled halfway, squeezed. The suppressed rifle whispered. 600 meters away, the point man's head snapped back. He crumpled. The secondary element froze. Confusion rippled through them. Sniper! We have a sniper! They scattered, diving for cover, but Nix was already tracking the next target. A man behind a concrete barrier, peeking out, trying to locate her position. She put a round through the gap between the barrier and the ground. Caught him in the leg. He went down screaming. Where is she? I don't know, I can't see. Nix silenced him. Center mass. Clean. 2 down. The remaining 6 went to ground. Smart. But it didn't matter. Because while they were pinned, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, Orion 2 was closing in. Phantom, this is Orion 2. We have visual on secondary element. They're suppressed. Good shooting. Copy. Maintain pressure. I'll cover your approach. She watched through her scope as Reed's element moved in. Fast, professional, exploiting the chaos she'd created. The mercenaries never saw them coming. Gunfire erupted. Brief, brutal. 30 seconds later, Orion 2, secondary element neutralized, 6 KIA, 2 wounded and secured. Solid copy, Hale responded. Phantom, what about primary element? Nix swung her scope back toward the command center. The primary force of 15 had changed tactics. Instead of advancing, they'd taken defensive positions around the communications building, 50 meters from command, close enough to threaten it, far enough to make a direct assault costly. Primary element has fortified, she reported. They're dug in around the comms building. Looks like they're preparing for a siege. They want us to come to them, Hale muttered. Classic. Boss, we can't let them hold that position, Reed said over the radio. They're too close to critical infrastructure. I know, but a frontal assault will get people killed. Silence on the line. Everyone running scenarios. None of them good. Then Nix spoke. I can take them. Phantom, you're 600 meters out with limited angle of fire. Most of them are in hard cover. Most, not all. She was already scanning, cataloging positions, identifying vulnerabilities. Give me 5 minutes and I can thin their numbers enough for you to push. 5 minutes is a long time under fire. Then don't get shot. Reed laughed, sharp, nervous. She's got a point. Hale was quiet for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then, do it. But Phantom, don't get cute. You see a shot, you take it. You don't, you fall back. Understood? Understood. Nix shifted position, settled deeper into her hide. Let her heart rate drop. Let everything fall away except the scope, the wind, the math. And then she went hunting. Target 1. A mercenary standing behind a metal drum, rifle pointed toward Orion's approach vector. Exposed from the waist up. Range, 623 meters. Wind, 8 miles per hour, left to right. Drop, 22 inches. She fired. The man dropped. The others reacted immediately, pulling tighter into cover, scanning for the source. But Nix was already tracking Target 2, a squad leader crouched behind a concrete wall, radio in hand, barking orders, making himself too valuable to lose. She waited, watched. He shifted, leaned out to check his flank. 2 inches of exposure, head and shoulder. She took it. He collapsed mid-sentence. Panic spread through the mercenary ranks like fire through dry timber. "It's that sniper, the one from Velkin Ridge." "How do you know?" "Because we're dying, and we can't even see where it's coming from." Target 3 tried to relocate, sprinted from one piece of cover to another. Nix led him, calculated his speed, his trajectory, fired. He made it 3 steps before the round caught him center mass. Jesus Christ, she's everywhere. She's not everywhere, she's just... Target 4 fell before he could finish the thought. 4 down in 90 seconds. The mercenary's defensive position collapsed into chaos. No cohesion, no communication, just fear. Orion 1, this is Phantom 2. I count 4 KIA on primary element. Remaining 11 are breaking discipline. Window is open. Copy. All Orion elements converge on comms building. Fast and loud. Go! Nix watched through her scope as Team Orion moved. 3 elements coming from different vectors. Weapons up, fire discipline tight. The mercenaries saw them too late. Caught between Nix's rifle and Orion's assault, they had 2 choices. Surrender or die. Most chose surrender. 2 didn't. Nix eliminated them both before they could fire a single shot. "Clear!" Hale's voice rang out. "Area secure!" Nix exhaled, lowered her rifle, flexed her fingers to release the tension. 11 targets engaged, 11 targets down, 0 friendly casualties. She keyed her radio. "Phantom 2, Overwatch standing by for further tasking. Negative, Phantom. Return to Rally Point Alpha. Mission complete." She stood, stretched, felt the adrenaline beginning to ebb, and then the explosion ripped through the base. The blast came from the direction of the barracks, a massive fireball that punched into the sky, followed by the deep boom that rattled windows and shook the ground. Nix's radio erupted with panicked voices. "Explosion at Barracks 3! We've got wounded! Where the hell did that come from?" Hale's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "All teams, report. Who's hit?" "Orion 7 here. We're clear." "Orion 2, same." "Barracks 3 took the hit," someone else reported. "Secondary explosion. Looks like they rigged the building. Casualties unknown." Nix was already moving. Down the observation tower stairs, boots hammering metal. Mind racing. They'd missed something. The breach. The assault. It was all misdirection. The real objective was somewhere else. She hit the ground running, sprinting toward the barracks. Smoke billowed into the sky. Flames licked through shattered windows. People were screaming. Vega was already there. Medkit open, working on a soldier with shrapnel wounds. Others dragged wounded clear of the burning structure. "How many inside?" Nix demanded. "Unknown," Vega shouted over the roar of flames. "Building was supposed to be empty, but—" A scream. From inside the barracks. Faint but unmistakable. Nix didn't hesitate. She moved toward the entrance. "Calder, wait!" Vega grabbed her arm. "The structure's unstable. It could collapse any second." "Someone's still inside." "You go in there, you might not come out." Nix pulled free. "Then I better move fast." She plunged into the smoke. Heat slammed into her like a physical force. The air was thick, toxic, burning her lungs with every breath. Visibility dropped to near 0. She pulled her shirt over her nose and mouth, moved by feel more than sight. "Hello," she shouted. "Call out." A cough, weak, somewhere to her left. She followed the sound, stumbled over debris, felt her way along a wall that was hot enough to blister skin. Another cough, closer. She found him, a young private, maybe 20, pinned under a fallen beam, conscious but fading. "Help!" he gasped. Nix grabbed the beam, pulled. It didn't budge, too heavy. She looked around, spotted a metal pipe, jammed it under the beam, levered. The beam shifted, inch by inch. "When I lift, you crawl out," she ordered. "Understand?" He nodded weakly. She braced, used her legs, every muscle screaming. The beam lifted. Now! The private dragged himself free. Nix dropped the beam and hauled him to his feet. Threw his arm over her shoulder. "Move!" They staggered toward the exit, smoke everywhere, flames closing in, the ceiling groaning overhead. 10 feet from the door, something gave way. A section of roof collapsed behind them. Fire roared up, cutting off their retreat. Nix looked ahead. The exit was clear. 5 feet. 4. 3. They burst through the doorway just as the entire structure behind them caved in with a sound like thunder. Nix hit the ground hard, the private landing beside her. Hands grabbed them both, dragged them clear. Vega was there, checking vitals, barking orders. "He's stable," he said after a moment, then looked at Nix. "Are you out of your mind?" Nix coughed, wiped soot from her face. "Probably," Reed appeared, face tight with concern. "The hell were you thinking?" "I was thinking someone needed help." "You could have died." "But I didn't." Hale pushed through the crowd, took one look at Nix, covered in soot, uniform singed, hands raw, and shook his head. "You just can't help yourself, can you?" he said quietly. "No, sir, apparently not." He almost smiled. Then his radio crackled. "Orion 1, this is command. Sweep complete. All hostiles neutralized or in custody. Preliminary count, 23 enemy combatants. Casualties, 4 friendlies wounded, none critical. Base is secure." Hale keyed his radio. "Copy command, Orion standing down." He looked at his team. "Good work, people. Damn good work." The team dispersed. Medics took the private Nix had pulled from the fire. Firefighters moved in to contain the blaze. Nix stood alone for a moment, watching the smoke rise into the clear morning sky. And then she felt it. Eyes. Watching her. She turned. Across the compound, standing near the command center, was Gareth Stone, the Pentagon oversight officer, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He'd seen everything, the overwatch, the precision shooting, the barracks rescue, and judging by the look on his face, he was recalculating every assumption he'd ever made about her. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand and nodded. Nix nodded back, then turned and walked away. The debriefing took 4 hours. Every shot accounted for, every decision questioned, every outcome analyzed. By the end of it, the picture was clear. The breach had been a coordinated strike by a private military contractor, hired by an unknown party to steal classified intelligence from the base. They'd used the diversionary assault to mask their real objective, planning explosives in the barracks to create chaos while a smaller team infiltrated the command center. But they'd failed, because Team Orion had intercepted them, and because Nix had eliminated 11 threats before they could execute their plan. 11 confirmed kills, Major Calloway said, reviewing the footage, in under 6 minutes, with 0 collateral damage. He looked up at her. "Sergeant Calder, do you understand how statistically improbable that is?" "Yes, sir." "And yet you did it anyway." "Yes, sir." Calloway leaned back. "I owe you an apology. I thought Velkin Ridge was a fluke, beginner's luck, but this," he gestured at the reports. "This is something else entirely." Colonel Mathis cleared his throat. "Sergeant, I'll be frank. When I saw you run into that burning barracks, I thought you were committing suicide. Turns out you were committing heroism." "I was just doing my job, sir." "Your job is to shoot people from a distance," Mathis said bluntly. "Running into a collapsing building isn't in your job description." Someone needed help. A lot of people need help. That doesn't mean you risk your life for every single one. Nix met his eyes. "With respect, sir, yes it does." The room went quiet. Then Mathis smiled. Actually smiled. "You know what, Sergeant? You're absolutely right." He stood, extended his hand. "I misjudged you. I won't make that mistake again." Nix shook it. Calloway stood as well. "Your performance today will be documented and submitted for commendation. I'm also recommending you for the Soldier's Medal." "That's not necessary, sir." "It's absolutely necessary. You saved a life at great personal risk. That's exactly what the medal is for." Calloway gathered his files. "Dismissed, Sergeant, and get some rest. You've earned it." Nix stood, saluted, walked out. Outside, the sun was setting. The base was returning to normal. Damage control teams working on the barracks, security reinforcing the perimeter, life moving forward. She made her way to the armory. turned in her rifle, stripped out of her gear, and only then, alone in the locker room, did she let herself feel it. The exhaustion, the adrenaline crash, the weight of knowing that if she'd been 1 second slower, one calculation off, one breath late, people would have died. But they hadn't. She'd been enough. Again. The door opened. She looked up. Hale stepped in. Still in full gear, still carrying the weight of command. "You should be debriefing," she said. "I was. Now I'm here." He leaned against the lockers. "You pulled off something today that most operators spend their whole careers trying to achieve. You kept your team alive, eliminated the threat, and saved a life, all before lunch." "Just another Monday." Hale laughed. Genuine. "Yeah, just another Monday." His smile faded. "But I need you to understand something. What you did today, running into that fire, it was brave. Heroic even. But it was also reckless. Would you have done it differently?" He paused. "No, but I'm a commander. I'm expected to be reckless. You're a precision marksman. You're supposed to be calculating. I calculated the risk, decided it was acceptable. The beam could have crushed you. But it didn't. The building could have collapsed. But it didn't. Nix." He used her first name. Rare. Intimate. "You're too valuable to lose, not because of what you represent, because of what you are. The team needs you. I need you." His voice softened. "So next time, maybe let someone else play hero." She looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "No." Hale's eyebrows lifted. "No?" "No, sir. Because if I'm going to be part of this team, I'm going to be part of this team. That means I don't get to pick and choose when I'm useful. Overwatch isn't just about shooting from a distance. It's about watching over people, protecting them. And sometimes that means getting your hands dirty." Hale studied her, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He pushed off the lockers, started to leave, paused at the door. "By the way, Stone withdrew his complaint, sent a formal recommendation instead, said you're exactly the kind of operator the military needs more of." Nix blinked. "He said that?" His exact words were, "I was wrong. She's not a poster child. She's a force multiplier." Hale smiled. "Congrats, Phantom. You just converted your biggest critic into your biggest advocate." He left. Nix sat alone in the silence, and for the first time in a very long time, she allowed herself a small, private smile. Because the world was finally starting to see what she'd known all along, that she didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be undeniable. That night, the team gathered again. Not at a bar this time. At the firing range, under the stars with the moon casting silver light across the targets downrange, they took turns shooting, competing, laughing. Nix watched from the sideline, content to observe, until Reed dragged her to the firing line. "Your turn, Phantom." "I've shot enough today. Come on, show these amateurs how it's done." The team gathered around, watching, waiting. Nix sighed, picked up a rifle, loaded a magazine. "What's the challenge?" she asked. Hayes grinned. 1,000 meters, 5 shots, smallest grouping wins. Nix glanced downrange. The target was barely visible in the darkness. "That's not a challenge," she said. That's just Monday." She settled into position, scope up, breathing steady, 5 shots, 5 seconds apart. When they checked the target, all 5 rounds had punched through the same hole. The team stared, speechless. Then Hayes started clapping, slow, building. The others joined in. Not mocking, not ironic, genuine respect. Because they'd seen her under fire, seen her under pressure, seen her when it mattered most. And she'd delivered every single time. Nix accepted the applause with a small nod, set the rifle down, and walked off into the night. Behind her, Reed's voice carried on the wind. "That woman is not human. She's a weapons system with a pulse." Vega laughed. "Forget weapons system. She's a natural disaster. Category 5 Nix." "More like Category 15, Hayes corrected. 1 shot per category." The laughter followed her all the way to her quarters. And when she finally closed the door behind her, alone in the darkness, she allowed herself one final moment of satisfaction. She'd been tested, and she'd passed, Not just once, but again and again and again, until passing became the only option anyone expected. Outside, the base slept. Secure. Safe. Because a ghost was watching over it. Silent. Deadly. Undeniable. The summons came at 0600. Not through her radio, not through hail. Through a courier. A stone-faced MP who knocked once, handed her an envelope, and left without a word. Nix opened it, standing in her doorway, still in PT gear from her morning run. Classified. Eyes only. Sergeant Nix Calder. Report to Situation Room 7. 700 hours, attendance mandatory. Major General Sarah Vance presiding. She read it twice. Major General, 2 stars. Base Command answered to her. Hell, most of the Eastern Theater answered to her. This wasn't a commendation, this was an inquisition. Nix showered, dressed in her Class A uniform, pressed, crisp, medals aligned with geometric precision. If they wanted formal, she'd give them flawless. She arrived at Situation Room 7 at 0655. The door was guarded by 2 MPs who checked her ID 3 times before letting her through. Inside, the room was sterile. White walls, fluorescent lights. A long conference table surrounded by chairs. And at the head of that table sat Major General Sarah Vance. 58. Silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Face carved from granite and decades of command. Eyes that could strip paint at 50 meters. She wore her stars like weapons. Beside her sat Colonel Mathis, Major Calloway, Gareth Stone, and 2 people Nix didn't recognize, a woman in civilian clothes with an NSA badge clipped to her jacket, and a man in uniform with a Joint Special Operations Command patch. Sergeant Calder, Vance said, voice like gravel mixed with ice. Sit. Nix sat. Vance studied her for a long moment. No expression, no warmth. Then, do you know why you're here? No, ma'am. That's surprising. Most soldiers who've eliminated 26 enemy combatants in less than a week tend to develop situational awareness. 26. Nix did the math. 15 at Velkin Ridge, 11 at the base breach. Right. I was doing my job, ma'am. Your job. Vance opened a folder. Let's talk about your job, Sergeant. Your official designation is precision marksman, correct? Yes, ma'am. Your primary role is overwatch, long-range target elimination, intelligence gathering, supporting combat operations from a concealed position. That's correct. Then explain to me why, in the past week, you've also engaged in close-quarters combat, structural rescue, and tactical command. Vance's eyes never left hers, because that job description sounds less like a marksman and more like an operator. The room was silent. Nix chose her words carefully. The situations evolved beyond standard Overwatch parameters. I adapted. You adapted, Vance repeated, by running into a burning building against direct orders to maintain your position. No one gave me orders not to enter the building, ma'am. Because we assumed you had the common sense not to. With respect, ma'am, common sense would have let that private die. I chose differently. Vance's jaw tightened. You chose recklessly. I chose effectively. The woman from NSA leaned forward. General, if I may? Vance nodded. The woman turned to Nix. Sergeant Calder, I'm Deputy Director Chen, National Security Agency. I've been reviewing your file. It's unusual. How so? You have no prior military family beyond your father, no ROTC, no academy background. You enlisted at 18, immediately after his death, and within 2 years you'd shattered every marksmanship record in your training battalion. Chen tapped the folder. Your psychological evaluations describe you as emotionally controlled to the point of detachment. Your instructors noted preternatural spatial awareness and decision-making speed that borders on precognitive. She paused. One instructor wrote, Calder doesn't aim, she calculates, like she's solving equations instead of taking shots. Nix said nothing. So I'll ask you directly, Chen continued. What aren't you telling us? I don't understand the question. I think you do. Chen pulled out a tablet, projected an image onto the wall, satellite footage of Velkin Ridge, thermal imaging, 15 heat signatures disappearing one by one in rapid succession. This level of performance isn't normal, Sergeant. It's exceptional, which raises questions. What kind of questions? The kind that wonder if you've had training we don't know about, contact with foreign operatives, access to enhancement programs. Nix's blood went cold. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking for transparency. I've been transparent. Everything I know, I learned from my father or from the military. There's no secret program, no foreign contact, no enhancement. Her voice hardened. Just 10,000 hours of practice and the refusal to accept failure. 10,000 hours doesn't explain precognitive threat assessment. It's not precognition, it's pattern recognition. Nix leaned forward. I see things other people miss because I'm looking for them. Silence where there should be noise, movement where there should be stillness, absence where there should be presence. It's not supernatural, it's just paying attention. The JSOC officer spoke up. Then demonstrate. Nix turned to him. Sir, right now, this room. Tell me what you see that no one else does. It was a test, she knew that. But backing down would look like admission. She scanned the room. 2 seconds. 3. Then, you're carrying a secondary weapon. Ankle holster, left leg, probably a Glock 43. You favor your right shoulder, suggesting old injury, rotator cuff, maybe shrapnel. Deputy Director Chen checks her watch every 47 seconds, which means she's either expecting an urgent call or she's running a parallel operation on a tight schedule. Colonel Mathis hasn't looked at his notes once, which means he's already made his decision about me and this meeting is theater. And General Vance's coffee cup is positioned exactly 3 inches from the table edge. Military precision even in casual actions, which tells me she's a control officer who doesn't leave anything to chance, including this interrogation. The room went dead silent. The JSOC officer glanced down at his ankle. His expression shifted from skepticism to something harder to read. Vance's face remained carved stone, but her eyes, they flickered, just for a second. You're observant, Vance said quietly. I'm a sniper, ma'am. Observation is the job. No. Vance stood, walked slowly around the table. Observation is noticing. What you just did is analysis, reading micro-patterns, drawing conclusions from incomplete data. She stopped behind Nix's chair. That's intelligence work, not marksmanship. Nix didn't turn, just stared straight ahead. My father taught me that shooting is 10% mechanics and 90% understanding. You don't just aim at a target. You read the environment, the wind, the light, the target's behavior. You predict where they'll be, not where they are. And your father learned this where? Marine Scout Sniper School, 2 tours in Iraq. He was one of the best. Was, Vance said softly. Sergeant, I knew your father. Nix's spine went rigid. Vance returned to her seat. Gunnery Sergeant Michael Calder. I was a captain when he served under my command in Fallujah. Brilliant sniper. Impossible to rattle. He could hold a position for 3 days without moving, then take a shot that shouldn't have been physically possible and make it look easy. Nix's throat tightened. You knew him. I wrote his commendation for the Navy Cross, and I was the one who informed you of his death. The room blurred. Nix remembered. A captain in dress blues, standing on her doorstep. The words that shattered her world. Training accident. I'm sorry for your loss. Why didn't you say anything? Nix asked quietly. Because I wanted to see if you'd become what I suspected you would. Vance's expression softened, barely. Your father used to say you had the gift, that you saw things he had to train himself to see. He was grooming you to follow in his footsteps. And then he died, and I wondered if that gift would die with him. She leaned forward. It didn't. It grew. Is that why you're here? To evaluate the gift? I'm here because in 1 week you've demonstrated capabilities that have drawn attention from every tier of military command. The Pentagon wants to promote you. JSOC wants to recruit you. NSA wants to study you. Vance's voice dropped. And I want to protect you. From what? From being used. Vance gestured to the others at the table. Everyone in this room sees you differently. Some see an asset, some see a threat, some see a case study. But I see Michael Calder's daughter, and I know what happens to exceptional soldiers who get caught in the machinery of politics and ambition. With respect, ma'am, I don't need protection. I need to do my job. Your job just changed. Vance slid another folder across the table. Open it. Nix opened it. Inside orders. New assignment. Joint Task Force designation. You're being transferred, Vance said. Effective immediately. To a specialized unit that handles high-value targets in denied territory. Missions no one else can pull off. Operators no one else can match. Nix looked up sharply. What about Team Orion? Team Orion operates within conventional parameters. Where you're going, there are no parameters. Just objectives and acceptable losses. I don't accept losses. I know. That's why you're being selected. Vance stood. The others followed suit. You have 48 hours to decide. Accept the transfer or remain with Orion. But understand, if you stay, the pressure will only increase. Every mission, every shot, the scrutiny will be relentless. It already is. This will be worse. Vance moved toward the door, paused. Your father once told me that the hardest part of being exceptional wasn't the skill. It was the isolation. Being so good that no one could relate. That everyone either feared you or needed you, but no one just saw you. She looked back. Think about what you want, Sergeant. Not what everyone else wants. What you want. She left. The others filed out after her. Only Gareth Stone remained. He approached slowly. For what it's worth, I was wrong about you. Completely. Embarrassingly. I noticed. I thought you were a diversity quota. A political gesture. Someone to parade around for optics, he smiled ruefully. Turns out you're just the best damn marksman I've ever seen operate. Is that an apology? It's a confession and an offer. Stone pulled out a business card. Handed it to her. If you ever want to work somewhere that appreciates skill over politics, call me. I can make introductions that will change your career. I'm already changing my career. For them, not for you. Stone gestured to the door. Military brass will promote you, assign you, utilize you, but they'll never liberate you because the system needs you predictable, controllable. He headed for the door. Stopped. Just remember, the only person who decides what you're worth is you. Then he was gone. Nick sat alone in the sterile room, staring at the folder, the orders, the choice, and for the first time since Velkin Ridge, she didn't know what to do. She found Hale at this firing range, 1,400 hours. He was alone, running drills with a handgun, draw, fire, reload, fire. Muscle memory keeping him sharp. He saw her approach, holstered his weapon. Heard you had a meeting with the brass, he said. Word travels. Always does. He leaned against the safety barrier. They offer you the transfer? Nix blinked. You know about it? I recommended you for it. That hit like a gut punch. You... What? Hale's expression was unreadable. Joint Task Force Reaper, Tier 1 operations, the kind of missions that don't make it into official records. I put your name forward 3 days ago. Why? Because you're being wasted here. He said it simply, directly. Nix, you're operating at a level most snipers never reach. Keeping you in conventional Overwatch is like using a scalpel to chop wood. You're precise, lethal, adaptive, and you need an environment that challenges those capabilities, not one that just benefits from them. Orion challenges me. Orion relies on you. There's a difference. Hale crossed his arms. If you stay, you'll save lives. Run successful missions, rack up commendations, but you'll never grow, because we'll become dependent on you being perfect, and perfection doesn't leave room for evolution. Nix felt something twist in her chest. You don't want me on the team. I need you on the team, but I don't want to trap you here out of selfishness. Hale's voice softened. Your father trained you to be exceptional. The military refined that training, but now you're at a crossroads. Stay safe and predictable, or step into something that will push you beyond anything you've known. What if I fail? Then you fail, and you learn, and you come back stronger." He smiled faintly. "But I don't think you will, because failure isn't in your vocabulary." Nix looked away, toward the targets downrange, toward the familiar routine of controlled environments and measured outcomes. "I don't know if I'm ready." "No one ever is." Hale pushed off the barrier, faced her fully. "But I'll tell you what your father told me once, when I was deciding whether to go for special operations selection. He said, 'Comfortable is the enemy of capable. The moment you stop being scared is the moment you stop improving.'" Said that? Word for word, right before he went off to do something impossibly dangerous that he absolutely shouldn't have survived. Hale's smile turned sad. He made it, because he was Michael Calder. And you're his daughter. The weight of that lineage settled over Nix like a cloak, heavy, familiar. "If I go," she said quietly, "Orion loses their overwatch. We'll adapt, find someone new, train them up." Hale's voice was firm. "But you don't stay because we need you. You stay because you want to. And only if the answer is yes without hesitation. And if I can't answer, then you already know what you have to do." He walked past her, paused, put a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever you decide, you've already proven everything you needed to prove. To me, to the team, to yourself." He squeezed once. "The rest is just choosing what kind of legacy you want to build." Then he left her alone at the range, with the wind, the targets, and the weight of a choice that would define the rest of her life. That's it. That night, Nix stood in her quarters, holding the photo she'd kept on her wall. Her and her father, both smiling, both holding rifles. She remembered the day it was taken. She was 16. They'd been at the range since dawn. He was teaching her wind reading, how to sense shifts in air pressure, how to predict gusts before they hit. "You feel it before you see it," he'd said. "Trust your instincts. They're faster than your eyes." "What if my instincts are wrong?" "Then you adjust, learn, adapt." He'd looked at her with those steady, unwavering eyes. "But most of the time, your instincts know things your brain hasn't processed yet. Don't second-guess them." She'd made that shot, 1,000 meters, in wind that should have made it impossible. He'd smiled, proud. "That's my girl." 3 months later, he was dead, and she'd spent the next 9 years trying to honor his memory by being perfect. But perfection was a cage, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to break out. She set the photo down, picked up the orders, read them again. Joint Task Force. Reaper Mission Profile. High-value target elimination in denied territory. Expected duration, indefinite risk level, extreme, extreme. Not high, extreme, which meant casualty rates, mission failures, the kind of operations where coming home wasn't guaranteed, but also the kind that mattered, that changed outcomes, that saved hundreds by eliminating one. Precision applied at the strategic level. Her father would have loved it. She picked up a pen, signed her name at the bottom of the acceptance form. No hesitation, just commitment. The next morning, she found Team Orion in the mess hall. Breakfast, coffee, the normal rhythm of base life. She walked up to their table. They looked up, saw her expression. Reed set down his coffee. "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. "Yeah," Nick said. "I am." Vega cursed quietly. Hayes looked away. The others just nodded. Hale stood, extended his hand. "Good luck, Phantom." She shook it. "Thank you, sir, for everything. Thank me by staying alive." "I'll do my best." Reed stood next, hugged her. Actual hug. "You better come back and visit. Show these new snipers how it's done." "Maybe. And if you ever need backup on one of those classified missions you're definitely not allowed to talk about, you call us. We'll be there." "I know." One by one, the team said goodbye. Not with sadness, with respect, because they understood. This was growth, evolution, and holding her back would have been selfish. As she turned to leave, Vega called out, "Hey, Phantom!" She looked back. 15 and oh, he said, grinning. "Don't forget where you started." She smiled. Never. 72 hours later, Nick stood on a tarmac at an undisclosed location, duffel bag over her shoulder, watching a black helicopter power up its rotors. A man approached, mid-40s, scarred face, eyes that had seen too much. He wore no insignia, no rank, just tactical gear and quiet authority. "Sergeant Calder?" he asked. "That's me." "I'm Mason, team leader. Welcome to Reaper." He gestured to the helicopter. "We're wheels up in 5, briefing en route." "What's the mission?" "High-value target, Eastern Europe. Details are classified until we're airborne." Mason studied her. "I read your file. Impressive. But files don't mean much in the field. You'll need to prove yourself all over again." "I understand." "Do you?" Mason's expression hardened. "Because in Orion, you had support, air cover, medical evac, rules of engagement. We don't have any of that, just the mission and the people who can execute it. You screw up here, people die permanently." Nix met his eyes. At his, "I don't screw up." Mason held her gaze, then nodded. "We'll see." He turned toward the helicopter. Nix followed. As the rotor spun up and the aircraft lifted off, she looked down at the base shrinking below. Team Orion, her past, the foundation she'd built. And ahead, into darkness, into uncertainty, into missions that would test every skill she'd ever learned, lay her future. Unknown, dangerous, extreme, but hers. Chosen, not assigned. The helicopter banked hard, sunlight caught the horizon, and Nix Calder, sniper operator, daughter of a legend, leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes, ready for whatever came next, because doubt had been silenced, performance had been proven. And now? Now she was about to discover what came after perfect: evolution. The mission brief came through encrypted comms at 30,000 feet. Nick sat across from Mason in the stripped-down cargo hold, the helicopter's engines a dull roar around them. 5 other operators filled the space, silent, hard-faced, running weapons checks with the casual efficiency of people who'd done this 1,000 times. Mason handed her a tablet. "Target? Viktor Volkov, arms dealer. Sells to the highest bidder. Doesn't matter if it's terrorists, cartels, or rogue states. Intel says he's brokering a deal for surface-to-air missiles, the kind that can down commercial aircraft." Nick studied the dossier. Volkov's face stared back. Late 50s, cold eyes, the look of a man who'd built an empire on other people's deaths. "Location?" she asked. "Compound in the Carpathian Mountains. Remote. Heavily fortified. Private security force of approximately 40 personnel. SAM batteries. Electronic countermeasures. He's paranoid and well-funded." "Extraction?" "There is none." Mason's voice was flat. "We go in. Eliminate the target. Extract ourselves. If something goes wrong, no one's coming to save us." One of the other operators, a woman with short cropped hair and a scar across her jaw, spoke up. "What's the timeline?" "Volkov leaves the compound in 18 hours for a meeting in Prague. After that, we lose him for months." Mason looked around at his team. "So we hit him tonight, hard, fast, no second chances." "What's my role?" Nix asked. Mason's eyes locked onto hers. "Your overwatch. There's a ridge overlooking the compound, 1,200 meters out. You'll set up there, provide intel on guard rotations, and eliminate high-value threats during our approach." 1,200 meters in mountain terrain at night? "Problem?" Nick smiled faintly. "Just making sure I heard you right." The scarred woman snorted. "She's got confidence, I'll give her that." "Confidence is fine," Mason said, "as long as it's backed by performance. You miss a shot, Calder. Our approach gets compromised. People die." "I don't miss." "We'll see." The helicopter banked hard. Through the small window, Nick saw mountains rising like jagged teeth against the twilight sky. They were close. The insertion was textbook. Fast rope descent into a clearing 2 kilometers from the target. Radio silence except for hand signals. Movement through dense forest in full darkness. Night vision turning the world into shades of green and black. Nix moved with the team, feeling them out. Their rhythm. Their spacing. The way they communicated without words. They were good. Maybe better than Orion, but they were also testing her, Every glance, every pause, waiting to see if she'd slow them down, if she'd freeze, if she was just another operator with an impressive file who couldn't deliver when it mattered. She'd been here before. The ridge overlooking Volkov's compound was exactly where the intel said it would be. Nix broke off from the main element, climbing the last 100 meters alone while the others took position for their assault. She settled into her hide, a natural depression between two rocks, camouflaged with local vegetation. Set up her rifle. A custom, 338 Lapua Magnum, built for extreme range. Scope with thermal overlay, suppressor, every component calibrated to perfection. She scanned the compound through her optic. The dossier hadn't done it justice. This wasn't just a compound. It was a fortress. High walls, guard towers, razor wire, patrol patterns that overlapped with military precision, floodlights that could turn night into day. And in the center, a main building, 3 stories, reinforced. That's where Volkov would be. Phantom, Reaper 1, Mason's voice crackled through her earpiece. You in position? Affirmative. I have eyes on target location. What do you see? Nix calculated. 23 visible hostiles, 4 guard towers, 6 roaming patrols, 13 static positions. They're running staggered rotations, changing every 12 minutes. SAM battery on the north corner, 2 armored vehicles at the main gate. Threat assessment? High. They're trained, disciplined. This isn't rent-a-cop security. These are former military. Mason cursed quietly. Can you thin them out before we move in? Nix did the math. Distance, wind, elevation, temperature, humidity, 1,200 meters, at night, in mountains where air density shifted with altitude. Affirmative, she said. But once I start shooting, you'll have maybe 90 seconds before they lock down the compound. You need to be ready to move. Copy. We'll stage at the east wall. On your signal, we breach. Understood. Stand by. Nix settled deeper into position, slowed her breathing, let her heart rate drop into the zone where the body became a platform and the mind became a calculator. First target, guard tower, northwest corner, sniper rifle, elevated position, biggest threat to the assault team. Range, 1,247 meters. Wind, 6 miles per hour, variable. Elevation, 342 meters above target. She adjusted her scope, accounted for the Coriolis effect, the rotation of the Earth itself bending the bullet's path over extreme distances. Breathed out, squeezed. The rifle whispered. 1,200 meters away, the guard in the tower collapsed. No sound. No alarm. Just gone. Target 1 down, she reported. Copy. Continue. Second target. Roaming patrol, south wall. 2 guards walking together. She tracked the lead guard, waited for separation. The moment when one stepped ahead of the other. There. Fired. The lead guard dropped. His partner froze. Confusion. Reached for his radio. Nix put a round through his chest before his finger touched the transmit button. 2 and 3 down. Jesus, someone muttered over the radio. She's fast. Stay focused, Mason snapped. Phantom, keep going. Target 4, 5, 6. Each shot a mathematical certainty. Each calculation executed with the precision of a machine. Guard tower, east corner, down. Static position, main gate, down. Patrol, northwest sector, down, down. She worked through them like a surgeon through a checklist. Clinical, efficient, emotionless. 10 targets eliminated in under 60 seconds. And then, alarm bells. Someone had noticed the bodies, shouted. The compound lit up like daylight. Guards poured out of the main building. Vehicles roared to life. Phantom, they're mobilizing. Mason's voice was urgent. I see it. You need to move now. Breaching. Through her scope, Nix watched the assault team hit the east wall. Explosives punched a hole through the concrete. Flashbangs turned the world white. The team poured through, a fluid, lethal wave. Gunfire erupted, and Nix went to work. She tracked threats as they emerged, identified targets by behavior. Anyone pointing a weapon toward the assault team became priority 1. A guard on a rooftop, raising an RPG. She dropped him before he could fire. 2 more rushing toward the breach with rifles. Down, both of them. A security coordinator trying to organize a counterattack over radio. She silenced him permanently. Phantom, we're taking fire from the 2nd floor, east wing, Mason shouted over the chaos. Nix swept her scope to the second floor, saw muzzle flashes, counted 3 shooters. Distance, 1,198 meters. Targets, moving behind partial cover. Difficulty, extreme. She exhaled, fired. First shooter dropped. Cycled the bolt. Fired again. Second shooter went down. The third dove for cover. Smart, but not smart enough. Nix tracked where he'd gone. Waited. 3 seconds. 4. He peeked out, just his head, trying to spot her. She took it off. Second floor clear, Mason confirmed. Moving to target building. Nix provided continuous overwatch. Every window, every doorway, every angle where a threat could emerge. She was everywhere at once, omnipresent, death itself wearing camouflage. We're inside, Mason reported. 60 seconds to target. And then Nix saw it. Movement at the north corner. A figure emerging from shadows, tall, wearing expensive clothes, flanked by 2 bodyguards. Viktor Volkov, running for the armored vehicle. Reaper 1. Target is fleeing. North corner, moving to vehicle. Can you take him? Nix tracked Volkov through her scope. He was running. Erratic pattern. The bodyguards provided moving cover. Distance, 1,312 meters. Wind, gusting. Target, sprinting, partially obscured. Probability of success? Low. Negative, too much obstruction. You need to cut him off. We're 30 seconds out. Volkov reached the vehicle. Dove inside. The engine roared. It started moving toward the main gate. If he escaped, the mission failed. Nix made a decision. She shifted her aim. Not at Volkov. At the driver. Through the windshield. Armored glass, designed to stop small arms fire, but not .338 Lapua Magnum rounds traveling at 3,000 feet per second. She fired. The windshield spiderwebbed. The round punched through. The driver slumped. The vehicle swerved, hit a concrete barrier, stopped. Volkov's door flew open. He stumbled out, trying to run, and Nix ended him. 1 shot, center mass. Viktor Volkov, arms dealer, killer, merchant of death, collapsed in the dirt of his own compound. Target eliminated, Nix reported. Voice steady, clinical, silence on the radio. Then Mason's voice, quiet with something that might have been awe. Confirmed, target down, mission complete. Reaper team, extract to rally point. The gunfire stopped. The compound fell silent except for the crackling of small fires and distant sirens. Nix packed her gear. Methodically. No rush. Just procedure. 17 targets eliminated. 17 shots. She slung her rifle. Started the climb down from the ridge. Behind her, the compound burned. And ahead, toward the extraction point, toward the team, toward whatever came next, lay proof that she belonged here. Not because of her gender, not because of her father, not because of anyone's expectations, but because when the mission demanded impossible, she delivered inevitable. The extraction helicopter was loud, warm, safe. The team sat in exhausted silence, adrenaline fading into the hollow aftermath of combat. Nix found a corner, sat, let herself feel it. Not pride, not satisfaction, just completion. Mason approached, sat beside her, didn't speak for a long time. Then, that shot, through the windshield, at 1,300 meters. In wind. Yeah. That's not training. That's something else. Nix looked at him. It's practice, and refusal to quit. Mason studied her, then extended his hand. Welcome to Reaper, Phantom. For real this time. She shook it. The scarred woman, call sign Viper, leaned over. You know what they're going to call you now, right? What? The ghost of Reaper, because you drop people who never see you coming. Nix smiled faintly. I've been called worse. I'm sure you have. Viper offered a canteen. But now you're one of us, which means the worst we'll call you is family. The word settled into Nix's chest. Warm, unexpected. Family. Not because she'd proven herself, but because she'd earned it. 3 months later, Nix stood on a stage she never wanted to be on. The Pentagon. Press corps. Cameras. Lights. General Vance at the podium, reading from prepared remarks. Extraordinary valor in the face of overwhelming odds. Sergeant First Class Nix Calder has demonstrated not only exceptional skill, but unwavering commitment to the defense of our nation and our allies. Nix stood at attention, Class A uniform, medals aligned, face neutral. She hated every second of this. The Soldier's Medal for the Barracks Rescue, a promotion to Sergeant First Class, commendations from 3 different commands, all of it public, all of it recorded, all of it turning her into exactly what she'd feared, a symbol. But then Vance said something unexpected. Sergeant Calder represents something this institution has struggled to accept. The capability has no prerequisites beyond dedication and discipline. She didn't succeed despite anything. She succeeded because she refused to accept limitations others tried to impose. Nix looked up, met Vance's eyes. The general continued, "In recognizing her achievement, we're not celebrating diversity. We're celebrating excellence and committing to a standard where excellence is the only metric that matters." Scattered applause, then more. Building. Nix stood perfectly still, but inside something shifted. Maybe this wasn't just theater. Maybe it was precedent. After the ceremony, Vance found her in a quiet hallway. "I know you hate this," the general said. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. That means you're still focused on the work, not the recognition." Vance handed her a folder. "Your next assignment, Syria. High-value target. You leave in 48 hours. Nix took the folder. "Will there be more ceremonies after?" "Probably. You're a public figure now, whether you like it or not." "I don't." "Then use it." Vance's expression hardened. Every time they put a camera in your face, you're not just representing yourself. You're representing every person who was told they didn't belong. Every operator who had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Every kid who looks at you and thinks, maybe I can do that too. She leaned closer. "Your father taught you to shoot. I'm teaching you to lead. Even if you never give an order, people will follow your example. Make it one worth following." Nix was quiet for a moment. Then, "What would he think? My father? About all this?" Vance smiled, genuine, warm. "He'd say you were annoying him by being better than he ever was. And then he'd buy you a beer and make you tell him every detail of every mission until dawn." The smile faded into something more serious. "But mostly, he'd be proud. Not because you're perfect, because you're his, and you carried forward everything he believed in." Tears threatened. Nix pushed them back. "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you do." Vance turned to leave, paused. "And Calder? When you finally write that book, everyone's going to ask you to write. Call it something honest, not breaking barriers or proving them wrong. Something real." "Like what?" "Like I just took the shot." Vance walked away. Nix stood alone in the hallway, folder in hand, future uncertain, legacy building whether she wanted it or not. But for the first time, that didn't feel like a burden. It felt like responsibility, and she'd never failed a responsibility in her life. 6 months later, Nix received a package. No return address, just her name and a forwarding location through military channels. She opened it carefully. Inside, a custom rifle case. Engraved, Nix Calder, Guardian of Orion, 15 minutes and 0 seconds. And below that, freshly added, Ghost of Reaper, 47 minutes and 0 seconds. A note was tucked inside. Hale's handwriting, Phantom. Heard about Prague and Damascus, and the operation in Belarus they won't let you talk about. The team's proud. I'm proud. But more than that, I'm grateful. You proved me wrong, proved a lot of people wrong, and in doing so, you made all of us better. Keep taking the shot. Hale Nix traced the engraving, felt the weight of expectation, of precedent, of legacy. Then she closed the case, set it aside, picked up her current rifle, and got back to work. Because the scoreboard didn't matter. The recognition didn't matter. The medals and ceremonies and headlines didn't matter. What mattered was the mission, the team, the person who needed covering fire and got it. Everything else was just noise. Years passed. Missions blurred together. Some successful, some costly, all classified. Nix moved through them like a ghost. Silent, lethal, effective. She trained the next generation, passed on her father's lessons, watched young snipers struggle with the same doubts she'd faced, and told them the truth. Doubt is just fear wearing camouflage. Strip it away. Look at what's underneath. Usually you'll find you're more capable than anyone, including yourself, ever believed. Some listened, some didn't. The ones who did became exceptional. She never sought command, never wanted the spotlight, but when they made her an instructor at the Army Sniper School, she accepted, because she remembered the doubt, the skepticism, the weight of proving herself every single day. And she wanted to make sure the next generation didn't have to carry that same weight. On her first day teaching, a young female recruit approached after class. Staff Sergeant called her? Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you for showing us it's possible. Nix looked at her, saw herself a decade ago. Uncertain. Determined. Carrying her father's legacy like armor. It's always been possible, Nix said quietly. I just made it undeniable. Now it's your turn to do the same. The recruit nodded, walked away with her spine a little straighter, and Nix allowed herself a small smile. Because that, right there, was the real mission. Not the shots, not the kills, not the scorecard. The belief that excellence belonged to anyone willing to pursue it, regardless of who told them it was impossible. The final ceremony came 15 years after Velkin Ridge. Nix stood in the same Pentagon briefing room where she'd once been interrogated. But this time, the atmosphere was different. General Vance, now retired, gray-haired, still sharp-eyed, pinned the Distinguished Service Cross to Nix's uniform, the nation's second-highest award for valor. For extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations involving conflict with an armed enemy, Vance read. Staff Sergeant Nix Calder repeatedly distinguished herself through acts of gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of her life, above and beyond the call of duty. The room applauded. Officers, politicians, press. But Nix's eyes found the back row. Team Orion. Present and accounted for. Hale. Graying now, retired from active duty but still carrying himself like a warrior. Reed, Vega, Hayes, the operators who'd been there when she was just a name on a roster they didn't trust. They stood. Saluted. And Nix, who'd never cried in uniform, never let emotion show in public, felt tears prick her eyes. Because this wasn't about her anymore. It was about everyone who'd been told they didn't belong. Everyone who'd fought twice as hard for half the recognition. Everyone who'd refused to quit when the world said they should. After the ceremony, she found Hale outside. You came, she said. Wouldn't have missed it. He smiled. Besides, someone had to represent the team that was smart enough to keep you. You tried to get rid of me. Temporarily, then you saved our lives and I wised up. Hale's expression turned serious. Nix, I want to say something I should have said 15 years ago. I was wrong, not just about you, about everything I thought I knew about who belongs in this fight. You didn't just prove you were good enough, you redefined what good enough means. I had good teachers. You had a good foundation, but what you built on it, that's all you. He extended his hand. Thank you for not giving up, even when we gave you every reason to. She shook it, firm, equal. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove you wrong. Hale laughed. Best mistake I ever made. They stood in comfortable silence, two warriors who'd traveled different paths to the same understanding. That excellence wasn't gendered, wasn't limited, wasn't exclusive. It was just rare and worth protecting when found. What's next for you? Hale asked. Nix looked out at the setting sun, at the future stretching ahead, uncertain, unwritten. Keep teaching, keep training. Make sure the next generation doesn't have to fight the same battles I did. She paused. And maybe, just maybe, take a vacation. You? Vacation? I know, shocking. Hale smiled. Well, when you do, you've earned it, every second of it. He walked away. Nix stood alone on the steps of the Pentagon, watching the day fade into evening. 15 years, hundreds of missions, thousands of rounds fired. Countless lives saved, And through it all, one truth remained constant. She'd never been trying to break barriers. She'd just been trying to do her job. But somewhere along the way, the job became something bigger than her. It became proof. That skill transcended stereotype, that performance silenced prejudice, that when you made excellence undeniable, even the most stubborn minds had to change. She'd been the ghost they doubted, and she'd become the legend they couldn't ignore. Not through anger, not through demands, not through fighting against the system, but by simply being so damn good that the system had no choice but to adapt around her. One shot at a time. 20 years after Vulcan Ridge, Nix Calder retired from active duty. They offered her promotions, command positions, prestigious assignments. She declined them all. Instead, she returned to the place where it started, the firing range where her father first taught her to shoot. She opened a training facility, not military, civilian, teaching precision, teaching discipline, teaching the lessons her father had given her. And on the wall of that facility, beneath a photo of her and Michael Calder both holding rifles, both smiling, hung a plaque. Doubt is just fear wearing camouflage. Strip it away. You're more capable than you know. Nix Calder, Sergeant First Class, retired. Combat record, 15-0. Vulcan Ridge, 47-0. Joint Task Force Reaper. 300-plus confirmed eliminations in defense of freedom. Students read it. Some understood. Some didn't. But the ones who did, the ones who'd been told they weren't good enough, weren't strong enough, weren't something enough. They came to that range and found more than technique. They found permission to be exceptional, regardless of who said it was impossible. And on clear mornings, when the sun broke over the horizon and the range was quiet, Nix would stand in that same spot where she'd learned to shoot. She'd remember her father, remember Vulcan Ridge, remember every mission, every doubt, every moment when giving up would have been easier than pushing forward. And she'd smile, because she'd done more than survive the doubt. She'd killed it, one perfect shot at a time. Sometimes the strongest voice isn't the loudest. It's the one that proves its worth through action, not argument. When performance becomes undeniable, even the deepest prejudice has nowhere left to hide. Your doubters don't define you, your results do. So take the shot.